Who are Quakers today?
I think that's quite a difficult question, because I think we've still kept our dissident focus. We're still a group of people who are non-conformists in lots of ways. And likewise, a lot of people have rejected more conventional forms of religious life and want more spontaneous, less rigid form of worship. But also there are quite a lot of people today who come from almost atheistic backgrounds, where there is no religious teaching, and who feel there is something more, and they want to explore that something else. I call it the great SE, the something else. They're not quite sure what that is. They don't want to be told by other people what it is, but they want the freedom to explore it for themselves.
Spirituality and faith do play a big part in my life, and I've been thinking recently about the connection between spirituality and tolerance. And I think that for me, those two things go together, because spirituality is about being and sharing with people who don't always have the same views as me. And I think that's what makes it special, that really there isn't a set belief in Quakerism, but yet we are all connected by some greater spiritual presence. And I think the idea of letting our lives speak is a very helpful one, because all of that is part of our spiritual journey.
I had a revelation when I was a student, having been a fairly ardent Christian churchgoer, that in fact you didn't need to be anywhere to be close to God than where you actually were, preferably in a garden or working. And after that I never felt that anybody should tell me what my beliefs were. I had to live them, and in fact that's what Quakers tell me, which is why it's like coming home.
I've got to know a lot about what actually happens in the world as opposed to what we get fed in newspapers and the media. And I'd been a vegetarian for some years because I just couldn't cope with animals being killed. Yes, but the thing was that in Quakers one can talk about all these things and not be considered weird.
Sitting for an hour with people that you know have the same feelings about war, nuclear weapons, violence, and an attitude of respecting all people without favouritism, to me is very important. It's the inclusive nature of Quakerism.
Jesus was extraordinarily clear for me. We are all equal. We are all equal before the eyes of God. And I have huge issues with structures in society where you have a hierarchy. And I think that focus and that testimony of equality for me is just, it's so important. I'm above no other, but I'm below no other as well. I think the focus on equality within Quakerism for, aspects such as gay marriage, feminism, I think those are hugely important, but I think they spring directly out of the teachings of Jesus as well.
Something that's really important to me is equality. I'm quite a strong feminist, and I feel quite strongly about a lot of issues of inequality, and so the idea of a denomination in which equality has never been a problem is just a really supporting idea. And also simplicity. I mean, being the age I am, I'm surrounded by people who really love getting new things, new clothes all the time, new technology, and you just see this fastly developing sort of world of stuff. But it's just important to know about what's important, and so it's nice to just step back and think, what do you actually need to be happy? You don't need the latest technology, you don't need the latest phone or the latest clothes, you can just have what you have, and that's fine.
Here at Ackworth School, I'm the only Quaker member of staff. We did have another Quaker Spanish teacher who's left at Christmas, so that leaves me with this sort of huge responsibility of being the only Quaker here. I would love more friends to come and work in this environment. It's the most special environment as an educator, to see children growing and flourishing in a culture of the Quaker ethos is so special. And I know there are moral issues with private schools, but there is no other way of doing this at the moment. And this school's been here over 200 years, doing wonderful things, of helping children understand how they can give back to society. As an educator, whichever your field, whether it's music or drama or traditional education, it is extremely important that we find a way to help children value themselves. Self-worth, it's that little warmth you carry around inside you. And unfortunately, too many schools kill it off. It's actually a light that shines very strongly in most toddlers and babies. It's a bright light of, I'm great, I can do this, I can walk, I can talk. And somehow, if we're not careful, we dampen that light. And as educators, we mustn't. We must kindle that light and let it shine brightly. And I think that's the prime job of an educator. It is hard to keep the light alive, if you like. We do have a very good committee that run the school, and many of them are friends. And they help a lot. They help with guidance and an understanding of the way we work in the Society of Friends. But yes, come and join us.
Really, Quakers are the first people to have the Eastern perception of religion, the perception of stillness, the perception of just sitting and waiting for inspiration or God, or just the greater mind to speak. I don't know what it is, but I thought the fact that George Fox had this vision of how people could come together without hierarchy, without projects, without goals, and actually just experience being together about 300 years before we in the West discovered Zen or Buddhism or all those other things, I thought was an extraordinary piece of foresight.
I think there is not just a Quaker question here. It may well be that there is a problem for liberal spirituality and religion in general. I only heard yesterday someone who said, I'm an atheist because I can't believe I can no longer believe what I heard in the church when I was a child. And I thought, but so many of us don't believe what we heard in the religious life in our childhood. I mean, things have progressed a lot in the religious life, but liberals are so nice and so wishy-washy and so quiet that the liberal spiritual voice is rarely heard between the din of atheism and the high volume of fundamentalism. And that may be one of the roles for Quakers, is to say it doesn't have to be between these two choices.
My name is Ruth Wilkins, and I've been going to this meeting for several years now. And one of my favourite things about Quakerism is the freedom over values and beliefs. This can be summarised in my favourite advices and queries, number 38. It goes, if pressure is brought upon you to lower your standard of integrity, are you prepared to resist it? Our responsibilities to God and our neighbour may involve us in taking unpopular stands. Do not let the desire to be sociable or the fear of seeming peculiar determine your decisions. I particularly like this one as it's something that can be interpreted differently by different people with different concerns and moral priorities. For me, it encourages me to take action on my previous decision of becoming a vegan. I've been a vegetarian all my life and previously thought that this was enough, but recently one of my friends, a Quaker actually, decided to go vegan, and so I did some research and realised that actually it wasn't. So in this case, my previous standard of integrity, something that I thought was okay, actually wasn't, and I was forced to change. So the pressure brought upon me to resist it wasn't some external force trying to change me, but simply the comforts and luxuries of my current life preventing me from moving in the right direction. That's what I love about Quakerism. There's not a list of rules and regulations that you have to go by. It's more guidance and advice, encouraging you to do what you believe to be important. It's encouraging me to be the best person I can, and I'm really glad I found it.
Where are the signs of hope? I think the signs of hope are where people will not be silenced I'm actually very taken with Facebook. I know that's not something that all Quakers approve of, but when I get messages on Facebook in the morning, and I do appreciate the sharing, there is a whole community of people. You realise what is being done. You realise that there are these individual sparks of hope. It's very difficult, actually, at the moment, to see vast movements of hope. I believe in the sacred resistance. I really, really do. And that people will perform almost miracles in the name of their deepest convictions. Society has changed in so many ways. If we feel outraged by the way some people are xenophobic, racist, homophobic, misogynist, it's basically because we have a greater awareness of the value of all human beings. If we didn't have that awareness, we probably wouldn't be so outraged. So I think there is a growth in awareness, and the more you grow in awareness, the resistance to change is greater. One of the places that I have experienced homophobia in my life is Brighton, which has almost the largest percentage of gay and lesbian people in the country. And why? Because people are prepared to be out and courageously out. The people who don't want change, who don't want to have to cope with diversity, feel threatened. So whenever there is change, for good or for bad, people feel threatened. But without change, there is no life, and without change, there is no redemption.
There's a lot of wonderful stuff in the advices and queries. Be patterns. Be examples in all countries, places. Oh, I suppose it makes me cry, this one. Islands, nations, wherever you come, that your courage and life may preach amongst all sorts of people and to them. Then you will come to walk cheerfully over the world, answering that of God and everyone. That was George Fox in 1656. That one.